Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the this is the second Commanders Countdown, I believe, since the name change happened.
Yes, sir.
Not a whole lot to cover. There is a bit of other news about some coaches and stuff, but I feel like the biggest news to talk about would be the quarterback options for next season. The most recent rumor to come out, well, actually, there's two. One a little better than the other, but one NFL executive said the Commanders could justify trading the 11th pick, let me finish, in the NFL draft for Jimmy Garoppolo, which, in my opinion, is too much. I don't think trading a first-round pick for him is particularly worth it. I know you would love that because obviously the Niners would get a first-round pick, and you'd be, I'm going to take the first-round pick. But no, I mean, you have to admit the first-round, the 11th pick for Jimmy.
As they say, I'd be happy as the proverbial pig in shit.
Right. So, I mean, I hope that is not actually true. Yeah. I mean, if it was like a second-round pick, I'd be totally game for that.
That's what we got Jimmy for. And I will say this. I mean, so coming over since we got him for a second-round pick, the man has been to 2 NFC Championship games and established an insane winning record. So I feel like he's only helped his. The injury thing is a concern, but he stayed healthy for 2 out of 4 seasons, really. One of those seasons he was acquired in the middle of the season, so you really can't count that as a full season.
I wouldn't deny that Jimmy has done well with San Francisco. I mean, he has a winning record, so I wouldn't deny any of that.
33 and 14.
The executive
now.
Who did
just a 33.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So it's still a good record. The executive who anonymously about Washington's quarterback options doesn't think that Garoppolo is worth the 11th selection or any first-round choice based on skill set and injury history, which I completely agree with that. But he believes that the organization could justify the move if they deem the draft's top quarterbacks as unstartable, which, given the way it looks as of now, and the talk about the quarterbacks that are in the draft, that seems like it's probably the case. So this a high first-round pick would be quite the price for a quarterback who is mostly efficient in Kyle Shanahan's run-first offense. Niners beat writer Cam Inman this month said the team might take a day 2 draft pick for Jimmy G, which I would much prefer. Among the most QB desperate teams in NFL, Washington would be a bad spot if they once again had to turn to Taylor Heineke as their day 1 starter.
Yeah, I mean, and who knows how accurate that is. I mean, I think that. I mean, I'm not completely one to say that Heineke couldn't potentially end up as a starter one day on a team that's got a little bit more offensive talent. And I know, to counter that point, a lot of people are saying that Jimmy is, he's on a super talented, which he is. But let's take going to Washington, for example. I don't think the drop-off would really be that significant because, let's say he does go to Washington. He's still got Antonio Gibson. He's still got J.D. McKissick if they re-sign him. So they've still got
Curtis Samuel if he's ever healthy
Curtis Samuel,
again.
who could be a gadget
Samuel
player.
Thing.
Yeah. Potentially, obviously Terry McLaurin, who would be obviously number 1 target. And then Logan Thomas at tight end. And Jimmy loves throwing to the tight end as based off his relationship with Kittle. So I really don't
Kittle,
think that there would be much drop-off at all. I think that he could definitely succeed in Scott Turner's offense and maybe even produce better than what Heineke. Obviously, he would.
Oh, no, I would say he probably would produce better than Heineke. I mean, Heineke, he had a lot of heart, and he could run and make things happen. But honestly, his arm ability and arm strength is really what killed him. Yeah. I mean, he made some good throws, but
Jimmy doesn't have a Mahomes arm, but Jimmy does usually throw a tight spiral and usually get the ball in position, albeit sometimes a little bit higher than you might like.
Yeah, I mean, well, no quarterback's perfect, but yes, but I would say Jimmy throws a prettier ball than Heineke does. But the main thing I think everyone liked about Heineke is his heart.
Oh,
that he approached the game, and it's hard. It's really hard. The few fans that did hate on him, I don't understand
that pylon dive in the Tampa playoff game.
Dude, that won me over immediatly. I was like, all right, well, you got me, bro.
And then I'll always love when Chase Young was just pointing to his jersey, pointing it he's pointing his name on the back. It was just But I mean,
so the other rumor that has I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's it. We're moving on.
All right. I was just going to say the other rumor that has been circulating around is Russell Wilson. which obviously I'm sure everybody would be completely ecstatic for that. The only thing is, though, with the rumors I've seen, the price tag would be immense. 3 years of first round picks, just kind of an obscene price tag. Which, I mean, I get it for a player like him that would.
That's if you're just giving
is that really
picks.
worth it?
I mean, that's if you're not throwing a player.
Yeah, it could be a trade as well. You're right. There could be
Yeah.
picks as well as a traded player, and I would think that would also be likely, given Russell Wilson's caliber.
Yeah, more than likely. I mean, it definitely, obviously, like we discussed a couple shows ago, Russell's going to be exploring his options. He's made that clear. He's interested. He said that he would play for the Commanders after befriending John Allen at the
Yeah, I know. I did
Bowl.
see
So
that.
it's
I couldn't believe that. I was like, oh wow. And I've seen a lot of analysts and stuff saying, oh, it'd be a good fit. I'm like, oh my god, that'd be amazing. But if the cost is too high, though, it's like it's a really big decision. Like if let's just say hypothetically it was between Jimmy and Russ, Jimmy for, even if it's 1 first and then Russ for like 3 and a player. It's like, well, which one do you pick? Do you want to go with Russ and try and go all out on the quarterback, or maybe save the picks and go with Jimmy, who might get you there also.
And as I mentioned with Jimmy too, like, I mean, I think what would drive, as we kind of touched on, what would drive that value up would be the fact that obviously if we were going into last offseason with a quarterback draft, the quarterback crop in the draft where there were 5 guys taken in the first.
Oh, it'd be very, very different.
Jimmy wouldn't go for anything higher than a second pick, but because of like maybe
Absolutely
like
not.
Malik Willis is like the best looking quarterback, or like who knows who's going to be the top guy taken. Obviously he's been reported.
Yeah, at this point I haven't looked into enough of these players, and draft is a long ways away. I'm not even going to speculate, but all I know is what I've heard in general sense, that the QBs don't look like they're much
if you were going to
starters.
use number 11 on a quarterback anyway, like, I think you've got a better chance using that pick on Jimmy than any of the guys in this year's draft. If you're set on drafting a quarterback anyway, because I mean,
you're right.
He's at least the guy.
You're completely right. Actually, I agree.
Yeah, I mean,
that is a good point. That is a good point. So even if it did come down to being
I mean, Jimmy's a guy that if he got you into the playoffs, like in the postseason, I mean, he's got a postseason record of.
It would still be nice to get him for a second and still have the first round pick, but you are not wrong, actually. Given if they were going to draft a quarterback, which obviously if the prospects were great, that would be the plan.
Yeah.
But given the prospects, then I mean, you're right. Jimmy for first.
You pick up a guy that's like 4-2 in the playoffs on a team that's potentially playoff caliber, and like he can get you there. Obviously, it's not the most attractive option. If you can get Russ, that's probably the move you want.
It's really it's the cost factor. It's like, because Russ would be the cost, Jimmy would be a lot cheaper. It's really a weighing your options kind of thing there. Obviously, Russell is probably going to be a better quarterback option, but is that cost worth it to the rest of your team?
Exactly.
Maybe going with Jimmy and having the picks and having all of that and building around him would work better. I mean, it worked in San Francisco. So, I mean, the team, San Francisco, the team really, I feel like, is what got them as far as they did. Not so much Jimmy. Jimmy did a lot, but
I mean,
the talent around him.
He definitely had to, like put,
he's had some fourth quarter
winning drives
winning
together.
drive.
Yeah, but it has definitely been a very, cognizant team effort.
Sorry, you're
fine. It has definitely been a very, very team-oriented effort. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I wouldn't be upset with really either one. I know a lot of people really hate on Jimmy and him coming here, but you got to get somebody. And the way that this this year is, it's going to either be something like that, or it's going to be maybe go all out and get a Russell Wilson. There also may be Deshaun Watson, depending on what happens with his legal issues. But personally, I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. But you never know. I mean,
that's true.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and then in other news, there was a coaching move. The Commanders' tight ends coach, Pete Hoener, announced his retirement, capping off an extensive career that spanned more than 4 decades. He first coached in the NFL with the St. Louis Cardinals back in 1985, and established a reputation for getting the best out of his players. During his time in the league, he had stints with Arizona, Chicago, the Bears, the San Francisco 49ers, and Carolina Panthers. And for the last 11 years, he's worked with Ron Rivera, both with the Panthers and most recently Washington and the Commanders or Redskins or football team, whatever.
Yeah, no, we're gonna have to start getting used to saying command.
Yeah.
It's hard every time for me too. I'm like
with
the
Panthers
Commanders,
and the
like,
Commanders,
and I know I say it with some stupid
Yeah.
inflection in my voice. I'm like, Commander, I'm like, I gotta stop doing that. I gotta stop. But yeah,
it's growing. Like the more times I think you say it,
it's getting better. It's getting better. It is getting
the more
better. But I was tempted to just go with
Yeah.
Washington.
Yeah.
I'm like, no,
Yeah.
you gotta use the damn name.
And then so Coach Hoener is known for his old school approach and old school style when it came to developing his players, which was always appreciated by his fellow coaches and players. Logan Thomas was quoted as saying he may push people a little harder who need pushing. He may yell at some people a little bit more. He might just talk. He understands his players and how to get through to his players. So that's what Logan Thomas said. And of course, Logan Thomas went on to have, career best years under Coach Hoener there. And he's also been credited by both Vernon Davis, 49ers and Washington great, and Greg Olson as being crucial for their development. So then that leaves the question mark: who are they going to get? Who are they going to get to be the replacement tight ends coach?
Yes, which they ended up hiring Juan Castillo, who was entering his 26th year of coaching in the NFL. He spent the previous 2 seasons with the Chicago Bears as the offensive line coach and has worked with 3 other teams on both sides of the ball, primarily along the offensive line. Castillo has spent time with the Bears in 2020 to 21, Buffalo Bills in 17 to 18,
been with the Ravens
in 13 to 16.
He was with the Eagles the Eagles for a long ass time, from 98 to 2012.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Jesus Christ, and 14-year span.
So while he was with the Eagles, he actually worked with Ron Rivera for 5 seasons when Ron was the team's linebackers coach from 99 to 2003, and Castillo was actually he was mostly an offensive coach, but interestingly enough, for the 2011-2012 season, he was actually the Eagles' defensive coordinator. So a rare NFL assistant that has spent time as both an offensive and a defensive coach. You don't see that often.
Yeah, this sounds like a great pickup.
Yeah,
Shit.
I mean, under his guidance, in the 2011 season, the Eagles ended up having a 50-sack season. So his experience on both sides of the ball could prove beneficial.
Hell yeah! I mean that sounds like a very good pickup to me.
So I mean, if you got to lose Coach Hoener, it's going with somebody that's got a lot of experience there, and then in some unfortunate news, maybe the NFL's original Deebo Samuel, Hall of Famer Charlie Taylor, who was a wide receiver and running back, who helped Washington to several playoff berths and a Super Bowl appearance, passed away on February the 19th at 80 years old.
Yeah, very unfortunate. He was definitely one of the greats. He was drafted number 3 overall by Washington in the 1964 draft. Had a decorated 14-year career with the franchise, back when players, actually stayed with the team.
He spent his entire career
throughout their entire tenure, which is something I definitely miss. Daryl Green is one of my favorites, and it's because he always played with Washington. He was an 8-time Pro Bowler with a first-team All-Pro selection in 1967. He was part of the Hall of Fame's All-1960s team, and he was selected as the AP and UPI Rookie of the Year in 64.
Yep.
And he was selected to the Hall of Fame in 84. Thank God at least he got in. There's a lot of other Redskin greats that should be in the Hall of Fame.
Joe Jacoby's the most notable one that I can think of. I always think about him, and it's like, how is he not in there? Off that big-ass Hawks
it doesn't make any sense.
Line, and quoted his former head coach Bill McPeak was quoted as saying, "Taylor is probably the greatest natural player I've ever seen. He combines power, speed, and fine open field moves." So I didn't really see a lot of him play. Obviously, I've seen him in highlights because it was much before my time.
Obviously,
but it sounds like the man was the NFL's original Deebo Samuel to me, with the power and speed combination. I mean, and with the way they used him too. He put up 1,569 yards and 10 touchdowns in his rookie season, becoming the first rookie in 2 decades to finish in the top 10 as a rusher sixth with 755 yards, and receiver, eighth with
Wow.
814 yards.
He
So
literally almost had the same amount of
who does
yards
that
on
who does
both
that
sides.
fucking sound
Holy
like though?
shit.
Like what player does that sound like? That sounds like a
Damn.
Debo.
That
Yeah,
sounds
it
like
sounds like a
Debo.
Debo prototype. And Washington had this guy like
Damn.
before that was fashionable. So his production,
This is well
yeah,
before
yeah.
I have any, I don't know any of these years
Yeah,
personally,
so Taylor had
but
made me neither. I'm just I obviously wasn't alive.
still though, he was clearly great. And the highlights I have
Yeah,
seen, yeah,
he had made
he was a force to be reckoned
he had
with.
made the Pro Bowl 4 times from 72 to 75, and then he led Washington with 673 receiving yards in 1972 when the team went 11-3 and played the Dolphins in the Super Bowl, and Washington advanced to the postseason again in 73 and 74. And Taylor was the team's top receiver each season. And at the time of retirement, he was the NFL's all-time receiving leader with 649 receptions for 9,110 yards and 79 touchdowns. And that record stood for 7 years until it was broken in '84 by Charlie Joyner. And obviously, again, it was broken by Jerry Rice, and like that record's been broken a few times since then. But
Yeah,
he did
that was
earn
only a record for
first
a short
first
time,
yeah
but
exactly first and second team NFL all NFL honors 6 times, and still holds Washington franchise records with 79 receiving touchdowns and 90 overall touchdowns. So pretty impressive.
absolutely, definitely sad to hear about his passing. Anytime great player. I mean, obviously, I didn't know of him personally or watching the game, but I love the
Yeah.
team, so I'm, not happy to hear about
Right.
that. As time goes on, and the players that I actually remember as they start to pass away, that's going to be like, if Daryl Green eventually, he'll pass away. That's going to be a
Yeah.
rough day for me because he's my all-time favorite. So, although he's healthy, he's like in his mid-60s. That man should be alive for the next 20 years at least.
Yeah, you would definitely hope. But yeah, I mean
I would hope. Yeah, I mean, he looks good for his age.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's pretty much all we've
But
got.
yeah.
At this point.
Yeah, that's about all we got. That's what I was going to say. I'm sure there'll be some more news as time progresses, getting closer to the draft. There's obviously all kinds of rather stupid mock drafts, in my opinion. Too many. Maybe we can do one for fun just to see what happens. But yeah,
maybe
we'll see how it goes as it gets closer to that.
Yep. But all right, join us next week. We'll see what we put together for you guys next week. But have a good night, everyone.
Have a good night. Thanks for joining us.
That is going to do it for this week on the Extra Point Show. Thanks again for joining us here. As always, we appreciate you. And if you're not already, make sure that you like and subscribe and follow us on all the various social medias that we'll have on the screen here. And yeah, have a good night.